I want to thank you, Portland, for the warm welcome, and thank you, Randy, for inviting me to participate in this forum. So I'm clearly the newest of the bunch. I've entered my 4th week on the job. And since I am the newbie, I'd like to take this time to share a little bit about myself and to highlight a few stories that have inspired me in my work, because clearly I'm not quite ready to talk about Portland parks. I will tell a tale of the natural progression from activism and advocacy to stewardship and partner. I will describe a park acquisition that was made possible through land reclamation, and I'll share a program that illustrates how recreation programming can build, strengthen, and connect communities. I'm gonna just move this. It's a little high for me. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, great. It is my hope that some of these will resonate with you, and I think they will. As many of you know, I'm a native New Yorker. While I most recently lived on Staten Island, I was born in Manhattan, and I grew up in Brooklyn. Up until my early 30s, I never lived more than 3 blocks from Prospect Park. And with Portland having its own Brooklyn neighborhood, I also never thought I'd have to clarify which Brooklyn, so thank you for that. Prospect Park was my playground, backyard, and social gathering place. It was also where I first contemplated parlaying my love of nature, wildlife, and outdoor recreation into something more than just a fancy. Although most well known for their collaboration on the design of Central Park, the duo of Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux were said to have considered Prospect Park their masterpiece. And apparently, I've followed the Olmsted legacy to Portland. My love of the outdoors was shaped by my parents, who weren't originally from New York City. Rather, they came from suburban places where clean, safe, accessible, diverse, and healthy open spaces were plentiful and the norm. The New York City parks of the 1970s were far from that. Fields were dust bowls, water bodies were stagnant and overgrown with invasive weeds, and play areas were defaced with graffiti and strewn with glass. Despite the condition of the parks during that time, they served as places of respite, recreation, cultural and artistic expression, and community connection. My parents embraced those notions and ensured that I was exposed to them early and often. My career in parks began when a friend who was a mounted parks officer introduced me to her colleague, an urban park ranger. When he learned about my background, he asked if I would be interested in applying for a seasonal park ranger position. And I thought, what a cool summer job before I applied to graduate school. It was to become the summer job that never ended. The ensuing 20+ years were spent wearing many hats. I worked my way up the urban park ranger ranks as I was promoted to ranger sergeant, chief of staff, and then deputy director. The ranger program has long served as a seed program for so many future park leaders. Park rangers serve as the eyes and ears for parks. As ambassadors, they educate, provide information, teach responsible park use, and provide aid. It was very gratifying for me to learn how well regarded the park ranger program is here in Portland. At the Staten Island Greenbelt, I held dual roles: park administrator and executive director of the Greenbelt Conservancy. There, I learned the level at which communities value their open space and just what they'll do to preserve, protect, and enhance it. Staten Island is the least populated but fastest growing and most suburban of New York City's 5 boroughs. In 1964, when the Verrazano Narrows Bridge was built, much of the borough remained largely pastoral, with pockets of suburban towns, quaint beach communities, and a modest downtown. Fueled by the completion of the only span that would connect Staten Island to other boroughs, the mid-1960s marked the beginning of unprecedented growth for Staten Island. Also, in 1964, perhaps not surprisingly, a land preservation movement was beginning to gain momentum as well. It all started with the community outcry against the plan to sell a Girl Scout camp to developers. Beloved Camp High Rock was situated in the wooded Central Hills of Staten Island. A small group of local residents organized to preserve the camp and pleaded their case to elected officials and the press. Despite their efforts, the camp was sold to developers with plans to build single-family homes. The rallying call was effective, though. It coincided with the formation of SIGNAL. We all love our acronyms in parks. The Staten Island Greenbelt and Natural Areas League, whose initial purpose was to block the construction of the Richmond Parkway, a proposed arterial roadway of the more extensive Staten Island Expressway. The parkway would have cut through the heart of this undeveloped natural area. Although this portion of the construction was successfully thwarted by local opposition, the staged debris from the expressway construction intended to be used for the parkway was unceremoniously left in the middle of this pristine natural area. Ironically, the mound of debris made up of serpentine rock and soil came to be known as Moses Mountain, a tongue-in-cheek reference to Robert F. Moses, the City Parks Commissioner and head of the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority, who had planned the parkway in the first place. In 1965, Camp High Rock was repurchased, ownership was transferred to the city, and the property was renamed High Rock Park. Remnants of the planned residential development, 2 building foundations were actually paid over to build a parking lot that provided access to the new park. Together with the preservation of additional land over the years, this semi-contiguous swath would become New York City's second largest park and officially designated as the Greenbelt in 1984. Including private and public land, the Greenbelt totals 2,800 acres. The modern-day champion of the Greenbelt is the Greenbelt Conservancy, which was formed in 1989. The Conservancy fulfills an important partnership role and is charged with promoting, sustaining, and enhancing the park through education, recreation, conservation, and research. The Conservancy also holds a formal maintenance agreement with the city and helps support the Greenbelt Nature Center, environmental education programs, natural resource management, volunteer efforts, and over 35 miles of hiking trails and paths. The Conservancy also generates revenue through the management of an inclusive carousel, the Carousel for All Children. The creation of the Greenbelt is a quintessential story of how engaged community members can mobilize to preserve, protect, and partner in the stewardship of public parks. Over time, municipalities have acquired parkland in many different ways, and as we know, those opportunities often compete with other uses as a city grows. When I served as a Staten Island Borough Commissioner, I had the good fortune to work with the team responsible for advancing the conceptual design of Fresh Kills Park. At 2,200 acres, Fresh Kills Park is the largest park to be developed in New York City in over 100 years. The park is being built on the former site of the Fresh Kills landfill, which was the largest landfill in the world prior to closing in 2001. The Fresh Kills landscape has many natural features, but it is highly engineered. Health and safety concerns regarding this landfill to park conversion have been at the forefront of discussion from the very beginning. The landfill itself is sealed off with a cap, which consists of different layers of soil, geotextiles, and a plastic geomembrane. A system of wells, trenches, and pipes collects the landfill's byproducts, leachate and landfill gas, and sends them to treatment plants. Air, surface water, and groundwater are monitored regularly. Due to the breadth and scope of this huge undertaking, Fresh Kills Park is being developed in phases, from the outside perimeter working in. Priority has been given to projects that provide a direct connection to the communities surrounding the park. So far, a neighborhood park, soccer fields, and a greenway have opened, and more park construction is underway. The plan is for the entire park to be open to the public by 2036. Until then, Community events and tours, outdoor recreation, art programs, education classes, and a scientific research program are designed to keep the community excited and engaged as each phase comes to fruition. I understand local activism has led to the recent transformation of a former landfill here in Portland, Cully Park, and I look forward to seeing it as soon as they let me out of my office. While physical activity and outdoor recreation has always been an important part of my personal and professional life, I became a true believer when, as an assistant commissioner, my portfolio shifted to include New York City's citywide recreation program. The disparity of access to recreation becomes even more alarming when considered alongside the various public, health, and social issues, increased population density, and lack of access to health care that plagues underserved communities in urban areas. The physical health, mental health, and social benefits of recreation are well documented. It diminishes risk of chronic disease, it boosts metabolism and the immune system, it relieves stress and reduces depression, and of course it strengthens communities, promotes social bonds, and supports positive youth development. I mean, who can't get on board with that? While the benefits of recreation are sought in many ways, the Shape Up NYC program is a particularly unique and effective approach that's worth a mention. More than 3,000 New Yorkers participate in over 350 Shape Up classes at 250 locations each week. Funded in part by grants and partnerships, Shape Up NYC is part group fitness program, part workforce development, part volunteer program, and all free. As a fitness program, it aims to reduce health inequities across the city and targets fitness classes like Zumba and yoga in more high-need areas and neighborhoods. Classes are offered at city recreation centers, but also in public schools, select hospitals, and even public housing. This program also serves as a workforce development tool in that fitness instructor trainees participate in a 12-week training program. Upon completion, they receive a certificate of completion, and at that time will have gained both the classroom training and the practical skills to attain a nationally accredited certification. These new instructors then begin a 6-month internship, leading one weekly class as a volunteer. So they get this free training for 12 weeks, the opportunity to actually maybe change their career or boost their career, and in turn, they volunteer for 6 months, providing free fitness programs to the community. It's really a win-win-win all around. Shape Up NYC is unique in that it provides so many benefits on so many levels, and it strengthens communities from the inside out. I want to thank you for indulging my stories of inspiration. I look forward to leading Portland Parks and Recreation as we continue to help you play, stay well, feel connected to your community, and keep the city vibrant. Thank you.